Hello there, Vlad here. Welcome to CatPick Fridays, episode number 17. And once again, I'm joining by Richard Morgan, who's waving hands, and you're not home, it seems. Hello, how are you doing?
No, I'm in a different top secret location filming this week, but otherwise I'm very well, and I hope you're the same, Vlad, and everybody watching this. I hope you're all good.
Yeah, thanks. Yes, top secret location. I don't know, I kind of like that background. There's just something about it, like, kind of feels like your mean business with all the files and stuff behind you. I like it.
Oh, I do. These are all very important files with top secret information that I can't share with the world under pain of death.
Well, that got grim fast, I guess, in a way. Fun show today as well. We are going to dive into a bunch of topics. Yes, that's how these things work. But first of all, I want to remind you again that this show is available both on YouTube and Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And actually, we're on other podcast sharing platforms as well. I completely forgot that. Just checked some of the stats on Podbean recently and realized that, hey, we're on other platforms as well. And actually, a bunch of our listens are coming from other platforms than Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So we're there as well. But yeah, if you want, you can enjoy this in a video podcast format or in an audio format. And we would really appreciate if you enjoyed the show and want to give us a like, leave a review, and leave us a comment, question, topic idea, anything like that. We are here to serve you, so to speak. This is an interactive thing. So if there's a topic you want us to discuss, or you got a question or a comment, something like that, leave those below as well. And I also want to remind you that there's timestamps to everything we do here. So if you want to jump into a certain section right away, timestamps for that in the description. Today we're going to dive into the new Boss. Well, new is probably wrong. The Boss anniversary editions of the SD-1 and MT-2, which are the Super Overdrive and the Metal Zone. Those things are 40 and 30 years old already, so that's quite something. I know.
Yeah.
We're going to briefly talk about how Jason Becker is doing and all the support he's been getting lately. That's been super inspiring. There's a fun article on, I think it was, on Guitar World, where Misha Mansoor talks about his hate for guitar solos, or like he hates writing guitar solos. I think that was a fun read. And we're also going to dive into one more list, top 10 electric guitars for beginners in 2021. More lists, yay! And in Host Confessions, we are going to just answer the question, like, if we weren't playing guitar, like, or maybe even like if we would start all over and could decide which instrument we would pick up, what instrument would that be? And in my guitars, we'll check out a semi-hollow Ibanez that I had, which actually reminds me very closely to the one Rich has as well. And in the Weekend Watch, we'll dive into our friend's band and their live show, or like pre-recorded live show at a Spitbank Fort. But I think it is time to dive to recent happenings and talk about recent events. Alright, as I mentioned, Boss, the boss of compact pedals, has released 2 anniversary editions. Basically, there's an all-black SD-1, the Super Overdrive, and all-black Metal Zone. Not that Metal Zone was like that colorful to begin with, but now it's all black, which probably makes it even more metal. Personally, I like both of these editions. Like, keep them kind of the same they were, but just add a little bit of flavor to celebrate. And I'm actually happy to announce that I got one of those pedals on the way to my place soon-ish, so that's kind of cool. I also forgot how affordable the SD-1, for example, is. It's $60. I think that's a great price for a classic pedal that still sounds good to this
$60
day,
and 40 years old. Like, this pedal is way older than us. It's like, how is it still relevant? That's testament to how good it must sound, you know. There are so many people over those 40 years who have used that pedal and others like, you know, the DS-1 to just get amazing tones. And there are so many boutique overdrives these days, but people come back and back and back to these bosses. It's funny. It's great. I love it.
Yeah.
And I love that color scheme as well, by the way.
Yeah, definitely. Like there's a, I don't know, like celebratory feel to them for some reason. Like they look different, like a bit more, I don't know, boutique maybe, especially the Super Overdrive, because like black with some like gold and stuff, it looks like, hey, we're celebrating.
Yeah, so the standard pedal would be like a bright yellow, right, with black text.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks more expensive. But it's not going to be, is it? It's going to be the same price as the normal one.
Doesn't seem like. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it seems like it's priced exactly the same. Do you remember whether there was a version of the SD-1 was different color? I know the Metal Zone looked pretty much the same as the original one. Like, there was a version of the MT-2 looked pretty much the same. Actually, I'm going to check quickly.
I don't remember that. I only remember one version of the SD-1. That's the totally standard one. And I don't think it was included in that special 40th anniversary set with the 3 colours, was it? No, that would have been a DS-1, I think, that was in there.
Yeah.
And there is no Wazza version of the SD-1, is there? There's just a standard version.
Actually, there is, but it looks exactly... Yeah, it looks pretty much exactly the same as the standard one, except it has the SD-1W on it, and then there's like this Wazacraft thing on the foot switch itself. And that one is 150 euros in Finland, so there's quite a difference in price compared to
Which version are you getting? Are you getting the anniversary version?
Yeah, just the anniversary version, which I actually kind of like. And the cool thing is like there's gazillion different mods available for those as well. So if like I want to fine tune it at some point, I probably can do it myself at home. Just get a couple of components. That could be a fun video if I end up doing something like that for that. But I haven't actually had an SD-1 ever. I've had the what's it called? They did something with JHS.
The Angry Driver. Yeah.
But but was it SD-1 and then something else?
That was the SD-1 and the JHS Angry Charlie, right?
Ah, that's true. Oh yeah, it was the Blues Driver
and the Angry Charlie.
So it's not the same. So I've never had an SD-1 then. Like never had the SD-1 sound. Yeah,
I've never owned any analog Boss Overdrive. I'm currently playing around with the OD200. Really? Which is kind of like the hybrid modeler of 12 different effects pedals, and has like the OD1, and it has the Blues Driver, and it has other pedals in it as well, Boss and non-Boss. But I don't think it has an SD-1 in it. It has a Metal Zone in it. And I haven't yet managed to make that sound very good, although I think that's possibly more to do with me than it is to do with the pedal.
Yeah. I kind of want to get the MT-2 as well at some point, just because it's been 2 or 3 years since I did the Ref G3 versus the Metal Zone comparison. I'm still kind of like looking back at that video. I'm still surprised how good the MT-2 can sound when you just tweak it a little bit. It's like a very old school kind of thrash metal sound. That's pretty much like the only sound it does, but it does it really well. And having that on the board would kind of be fun. It's because to me it leaves somewhere between like a fuzz and a metal pedal, and I could see myself using
it's like it's a totally classic pedal as well, and everyone talks about it as being the worst distortion, but that's I think only because it is possible to make it sound bad in our opinions,
the controls are
but it's like
sensitive.
It has great tones too, and I think it's one of your most popular videos, isn't it, that one? And also
definitely. Like I think top 3.
Yeah, exactly. So the interest is still there in that pedal. And I think one of Ola England's most popular ones is his Metal Zone video, which is called something like the worst pedal of all time, ? Or something. And of course he proves that it's not, but that's what we want to believe, But I think every guitarist should own a Metal Zone, so I'm going to buy one too. Maybe this one, because I love that all black look. Yeah.
It's great.
But I love the idea of limited edition versions of pedals which are affordable. There have been a lot of pedals that came out recently in limited runs, For example, Chase Bliss did a few, and this is nothing against Chase Bliss or anything, but those pedals that come out in limited quantities get snapped up by people straight away, and then you can find them on Reverb the next day for massive prices. And I'm sure that this SD-1 and this Metal Zone, these versions are going to be limited, but a Boss limited edition is going to be limited in a way, but available to all, basically, for an affordable price. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the way, as I mentioned a few episodes ago, the way the boss of compact pedals, I'd say, the way they usually release pedals is that, or like just gear, a lot of the gear, the day they announce the stuff, it's available in most of the stores. Even like local store here in Finland, they, like in my city or nearby, the Katanas and what's the other classic amp series they had? Next Stone and like a bunch of other stuff. The day that stuff is announced, I could walk into the store and get one, and I bet these pedals are available already as well. And as I mentioned, it's $59.
Yeah, that's amazing. Really, really cool. Funnily enough, the only Boss pedal that I can remember in recent times that wasn't like that was the Tone Bender, which was made earlier this year using NOS parts, and they could only make 3,000 of those. And I think that one was also about $350 maybe, and that sold out straight away. But everything else by Boss, once you hear about it online, you can buy it in a store. So that's wonderful as well.
Yeah, I love that. Moving on to the next thing, we mentioned about Jason Becker. I'm just going to quote one article on guitar.com, but there's a bunch of articles that I read. Recently, he has had a bunch of health issues, and because it's US, like people with serious diseases, especially if they're like, he has had ALS for 30 years now. It's incredibly expensive. And the amount of support he's been getting lately, like Joe Satriani and Steve Weiss and like all kinds of people, Paul Stanley, for example, Jeff Loomis, Mark Tremonti, guys from Trivium, and bunch of other people have been like auctioning their guitars to support his medical costs. That's been amazing. And I'm also happy to hear that he's doing better again. But is for the American healthcare system, because I don't know, it doesn't feel
he's
fair.
had a very hard time, and I think the positive thing we can say about it is it's amazing how the community is pulling together to help him. I think that's fantastic, and it is a really, really tough time for him, especially since Corona has happened. It's made everything so much more difficult for people who were living with pre-existing conditions and diseases and so on. And I'm very happy to hear that so many high-profile people as well are also putting their hands in their own pockets and auctioning guitars to help him, because he's an integral part of the guitar community. He's an iconic figure.
Yeah, definitely. That was just another positive thing to read. Like so many people helping out. Just I don't know. It's great to read some like positive news every now and then, and going from positive to negative, I guess. This was a fun read. Misha Mansoor in an interview. Let me check what podcast he was on. Guitar Players No Guitar is Safe podcast. Misha was talking about how he hates doing solos, in the sense that when he's writing a solo for an album, he talks about him immediately thinking like, damn it, I will have to do this live as well. And that's in his head all the time. He feels like he is a rhythm guitar player, but apparently in their band, nobody wants to be like the lead guitarist. So they're like, well, no, it's your turn. No, it's your turn to take the solo. Which is crazy when you think about like on what like a level technically and just musicianship-wise the whole band is.
Yeah, it's...
I think it was great to read stuff like that from someone who's this successful, to be like honest about it, like, hey, this is something I struggle with, and I really appreciate that.
Well, I don't like it, but I like to be able to read about his honesty and the fact that he has self-doubts about doing solos. And for me, it was the issue about reproducing it live is a problem, because what fans hear on the record these days, they expect to be perfectly recreated from the stage. And, you know, we all know if you play live, if you do anything in front of a camera, if people are watching, you lose something quite often, you know, and it's not always easy to play your very, very best. So if you're playing music like Periphery, what Misha plays, very, very complex stuff, and suddenly you come out with some finger-melting solo in a weird time signature, and you have to recreate that perfectly because there's a bunch of fanboys in the front row watching, that's hard. That's pressure, you know? I think it's very different to the old days.
Yeah.
I don't think back then people were expected to totally recreate note for note complicated solos. Whereas today, with sites like Instagram and TikTok and lots of people who learn these things note for note, you're expected as the originator of them to be able to play them. And if you don't, something's wrong. So that is definitely an extra level of pressure.
Yeah, that's like... Yeah, the thing is, like, when you put out a song, there's immediately, like, several videos dissecting your solo and, like, teaching it.
Yeah, there are people on YouTube who are so good that within, like, 4 hours, you know, every time Misha will do a new song or a new solo, there will be someone doing a lesson of it. And I'm like, how can you even listen to it in that time, let alone dissect it, learn it, tab it, and make a video in professional quality showing people how to do it? Crazy.
Speaking of that, like, the English song we talked about was a couple of weeks ago. I already saw a video on that. Like, somebody had made a full cover of that song. Like, how? How are you doing that? Like, there's so many notes to dissect in that song.
I would be interested to see a video of someone talking about the mix of that song. Because, you know, we discussed as well how it kind of sounds a bit unique in places. I would really like to hear someone like Glenn Fricker or someone who can nail the mix, for example, just explaining why that sounds like it does. I think that'd be very cool.
True. But yeah, overall, like, I really appreciate Misha's honesty, and, like, as you mentioned, like, in modern metal, I feel like there's absolutely no room for any kind of improvisation or anything like that. It's like, as you mentioned, people want to hear everything reproduced to the note, and, like, even production-wise, like, a bunch of backing tracks and everything needs to be added. And I feel like, while I understand that you also kind of lose some of the elements in that, and not sure what the solution to this problem, I'm putting it in quotes, is, but yeah, I can totally relate to Misha. And I also, like, when I was growing up, I would have loved to be able to play all of those crazy solos. Now I can play some of the solos I wanted to play as a kid, but I don't know. Somehow, like, the amount of time I need to spend to be able to play that one solo, and how little it, like, how small part of the whole song and everything it is, I think I've kind of decided that I'm not going to put as much emphasis on that and just focus on, like, being a better rhythm player and just production and stuff like that instead, because I just don't have the time.
Yeah, the one thing for me about solos is also that I've only learnt very few guitar solos in my lifetime, and most of them have been the most simple Angus Young AC/DC ones. And I also noticed that as I'm looking at a tab or watching him play and trying to put my fingers, you know, where he does on the fretboard, what I can do is reproduce the notes, most of them, not all of them, but most of them. But what I can't seem to do is get that same kind of energy and feeling that he nails into those notes. And I feel like it's such a personal thing, guitar solos. There's so much emotion attached to it, that when he came up with them, when he wrote them, probably spontaneously, he was there in that moment, and what came out was this amazing thing. And I struggle with recreating that. And I think that's also a difference with modern solos. The stuff that Misha and the progressive metal guys play, they're so technical. I think the emotional side is also a little bit gone these days, and it's a lot more about how many notes can I play in the shortest amount of time, as you see a lot these days on Instagram. And there's been controversy with people being accused of speeding up their guitar tracks and stuff like that, and people miming their guitar solos live. It's a weird place we're at with guitar and music at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. The good thing is, like, I'm starting to see more and more, like, imperfections, like, and just for example, I was recently listening to Wolfgang Van Halen's like up. I think he has like 6 songs out right now. He's putting out a full album soon. The songs are pretty good, actually. By the way, I kind of enjoyed what he's been putting out, and like I appreciate the production that, like, for example, the double tracking on those, like guitar wise, isn't perfect, and it makes it feel like, even though it's like very high production value, like the things like you can hear that the guitars aren't like perfectly timed, and like there's little scratches and things going on the sides, and so, like, because we've been listening to like absolutely perfect guitar tracks for the past decade, I would say, it feels so refreshing. Suddenly, like, it doesn't feel, I don't know, there's something about it. Like a Finnish metal band called Arion put out an album recently where, again, like, you can clearly tell it's been played by humans and hasn't been like perfectly quantized. There's little bits happening here and there, and it just feels, I don't know, it feels more natural.
Yeah, that's music that was probably written live and is meant to be played live as well, you know. That's another difference, I think.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, there's something more show notes for ourselves in our show. Something that we could discuss more in the future, maybe get a guest as well to talk about this. But we need to dive into one more list or another list. Actually, this article, I don't get how these... Okay, never mind. Basically, this is an article from GuitarWorld.com. 10 best beginner electric guitars in 2021. Learn to play on these epic electric guitars for beginners. And all I have to say is that I actually haven't looked at the list. So as we go through the list, these are my initial reactions.
Yeah, mine too. I'm seeing this for the first time.
All right. Number 1 is the Yamaha Pacifica 112V. I immediately can agree on that. It's like roughly 250 euros at the moment, it seems. Plus point is hugely playable. What does that mean?
It means it's huge. I don't think that it means it's huge. I just think it means I don't know. I hugely playable probably means it feels like great quality and you can do a lot of stuff with it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I agree. I mean, Yamaha Pacificas they're not the most exciting guitar in the world, but they're so good, they're so reliable, they sound great, they punch above their weight. And look at some of the colors you can get. Natural, black, old violin sunburst, red raspberry, silver and sonic blue. Some of those sound interesting. I don't really like the look of the natural one there that much. That looks like a kit guitar to me, but...
I was just about to say, it looks like my Harley Benton T-style kit.
Yeah, exactly. But red raspberry, silver or sonic blue, old violin sunburst, they sound kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, for a beginner guitar, that's great, and I like that it's number 1. Again, we didn't even like read the criteria. Like, I'm guessing this is the top guitar. Well, it does. Best beginner electric guitar. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just clicking the Thomann links, and actually they're more expensive. They're like 330 euros right now.
Okay, that probably depends on
where you are. Yeah.
Yeah, all the taxes and stuff like that, which makes sense. Number 2, Squire Classic Vibe 50 Stratocaster. A bit more expensive, but classic vibes are good. They're like really good guitars that, if you're into a Stratocaster type of thing, it's not only that you're getting a very good guitar right away, but they're fantastic mod platforms as well. There's a video on my channel where we upgrade the pickups on my friend's classic vibe, or like, I think it's a classic vibe Jazzmaster. He still uses it to today. We did a recording session with him using that guitar last summer for an upcoming EP as well. And great guitars. Again, I fully agree.
Yeah, me too, absolutely. I mean, the classic vibe stuff just looks so good, you know. Just looking at that picture of that Strat, I love that vintage looking, the classic vibe of that sunburst finish. The maple neck looks lovely. That would inspire me so much to pick it up and just play it. And I think that's exactly what you want from your first guitar, or from, you know, just a more affordable second or third or fourth guitar that you're going to have in your collection. It looks fantastic, and all the classic vibe stuff I've tried plays extremely well indeed for the price, and it can be modded to be really, really, really good.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I love the fact that, unlike Epiphone, for example, they have exactly the same headstock and everything, so you get that Fender vibe right away. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked, I think last week it was, about a few new classic vibe stuff, some Esquire tellies that are coming along. They're also taking some pretty cool decisions when it comes to finishes and pickup configurations. So there's a classic vibe for pretty much every taste. I think they're doing really good things right now. And as a first guitar, how good would that be to get a Squier Classic Vibe 50s Strat as your first instrument? When I think about the first guitars I played back in the day, I'd kill to have had one of those instead.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Number 3, PRS SE Standard 24. This is a bit more pricey. Well, they say it's sub for $500. Let me check what it is.
Really? Can you get that for under 500? That's astounding value for money.
Yeah, for me it would be 579 euros.
Okay.
So it's like closer to 600. But again, it depends where you live. I think in US it's probably way more affordable.
Yeah, and used in Europe, I guess you could get one for under 500. And yeah, look at that. That looks so much more expensive than it should be, you know. And you've got, you know, translucent blue, tobacco sunburst, vintage cherry finish options, 2 humbuckers but coil splits. You've got probably pretty good hardware, you know, tuners that hold tune, and a whammy that probably goes back to 0 pretty well. I mean, wow. Amazing value. Birds on the neck as well.
And there's actually like bands and like signature artists that play the SE models. For example, I think Zach Myers is he from Shinedown, I think?
Yes, exactly. He has, I think, a couple of different signature PRSs. And actually, Mark Holcomb, Misha's buddy in Periphery, is a big PRS SE player. And I believe he plays his SE signature models on stage and in the studio. He's got a baritone and a normal scale 6-string or 7-string, I think.
Yep. That's a solid choice. Like, if you can afford that, that's like a semi-pro level guitar that is, again, a fantastic mod platform.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
At some point, if you want to.
That one and the Classic Vibe, I think you can start out on them and you can take them as far as you want on your journey. Yeah. All the way to playing it on, you know, fully professional records or at big festivals or whatever. No one's going to know. They're good enough to do everything.
Yeah, and I like the fact that it looks exactly like any other PRS. Like, maybe there's a little bit of difference in the top calf, but not that much.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Number 4 is the Epiphone Les Paul Studio. Again, I agree. Here's where the difference between a Gibson and an Epiphone does come in, like, because of the headstock, though I do like the newer headstock design on the Epiphones a bit more. So,
yeah, the new Epiphone headstock is really good. A Palfero fingerboard is, again, just a personal taste thing for me. I would prefer to see rosewood or ebony or something else. But, I mean, if you oil it and take care of it, it's doable, you know.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of guitar for the money. Are they really 370 euros?
449 for me at Thomann when I switched to Finland pricing.
Yeah, let me click the link.
Yeah, again,
445.
Yeah, click the link to see the pricing in your country, because otherwise it's a bit of a guess.
Yeah, and again, to everybody watching this, just be aware of the fact that these are obviously all affiliate links on the site that we're clicking. So Guitar World are under the same banner as Music Radar, part of the Future Publishing portfolio, and they use affiliate links, just so you guys know.
Yeah. Yeah, but so far I'm agreeing to the list. Number 5 is the Gretsch G2420 Streamliner. Wow. I think this guitar was featured on the other list we talked about as well a few weeks ago. Yeah, a bit more niche, or like not as all-around as some of the other guitars we talked about.
Yeah.
But yeah, sure.
Wow, though. I mean, look at that. And on Thomann, when I've just clicked, I see in English pounds, 375. I mean, fantastic.
Really?
They look awesome. They look really, really professional level, you know? I mean, like you say, the Gretsch is not something you would take to play metal with. So in that sense, you know, the PRS or the Epiphone Les Paul Studio is something which is more kind of all-rounder in terms of guitar, but if you play classic rock and roll or indie or rockabilly or jazz or anything like that, pick up one of these and you're going to be set for years and years and years. It looks wonderful.
These guitars are also very popular in like worship scene.
Yep.
So that's one option as well. If you're in a church band, this could be a thing to go.
Yep.
The cool thing about these guitars is like they're very different sounding and feel like sometimes like if you have a, let's say, an acoustic guitar player and like somebody plays, I don't know, a Les Paul or a Tele or something like that in the band, this would sit perfectly in the mix. This kind of more hollow sound, and you can do like chords on it as well, and then it's great for like slightly softer lead lines as well. Yeah, cool guitar, but a bit more kind of specific type of sound. Not an all-arounder, I would say.
Exactly, yeah. And as they say as well, as their minus point, could be too big for kids. So that's probably true. But there are also a bunch of other Gretsch models which would fit into this price point, you know, the Electromatic range, which are more solid body and are smaller and easier to get the hands around, and even cheaper than this one. So if you want Gretsch, there are other options around.
Yeah, definitely. Number 6 is the Yamaha Revstar RS320.
Yeah,
solid choice.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the Revstar a couple of weeks ago, didn't we, with Chris Buck, because he's the guy who's really pushing the Revstar brand and name out there. You just don't see many Revstars out in the wild, do you? I don't know why, because they're extremely versatile and extremely good guitars. Every single one I've played at every price point has been really, really cool. But maybe they just have the same issue that the Pacificas do, and they're just not as glamorous as some of the other brands.
Yeah, it has to be that, because I mean, I've been really close to getting one as well. Like at the time I ended up buying a Strat from Thomann was when I was like seriously considering a Revstar as well, because it's a cool guitar.
Yeah.
A bit unique. It's like an SG meets Les Paul meets something else, but yeah, it's a great guitar for the money.
The interesting one that they say about this is it has a flat fretboard and the radius is 13.75 inches. So it's a very modern guitar in that sense. I think built for more high gain, and the humbuckers are HH3 hot humbuckers. So that's interesting. So it's a really useful guitar, I guess, for trying to learn your first guitar solos on, because a flat fingerboard is obviously easier to bend strings on than a more rounded one would be. So that's one that I think... Carry on?
I think that probably makes it a great beginning guitar for anything like rock to metal type of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's hardtailed, it's like fast to go to drop D or anything like that as well. So actually a very solid choice for the list, I'd say.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Number 7, Epiphone G400 Pro SG. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
Definitely.
I love SGs. My first, I guess, proper electric guitar was an Epiphone Bully SG, which was a black one, more like a special one, a high output one built for rock and metal. But I always was turned on totally by this cherry red SG. It's a classic, you know. Everyone knows Angus Young plays one, but for me, there was a British band, a Welsh band, in fact, called the Stereophonics, who inspired me a lot when I was growing up. They had a couple of albums out in the mid to late 90s. Word Gets Around was their first one. Oops, I've just lost one of my headphones. And they were fronted by a guy called Kelly Jones, who's an amazing singer, a great kind of gravelly rock and roll voice, and they have a bunch of amazing rock songs. So yeah, try Word Gets Around, their first album, or Performance and Cocktails, their second one. His Gibson Cherry Red SG was all over it, and he was the guy who made me really want to get an SG. And he also introduced me to drop D tuning. So there you go. Very interesting. I love the Cherry Red SG. It's so classic. It's so beautiful. Yeah. They're so lightweight. And if you're lucky, they won't have neck dive. Most of the modern ones don't. And on this specific model, you've also got the option to split those pickups down to single coils by the look of it. You can see the stickers around the two volume knobs there. You pull those out, presumably, and you get single coil tones too. So you can basically play anything on that guitar. Full thumbs up from me. That's nice. Apart from the Pau Ferro fretboard, I would like Rosewood. I'm going to stop saying that, but just so you guys watching know that I prefer Rosewood.
Yeah, definitely. Number 8, Squired Bullet Mustang, which they say is the best beginner electric guitar for kids.
Yeah, because of the short scale length.
That's true. That's 24-inch.
Yeah, they're 620 millimeter scale length, so there's only 3-4 centimeters in it compared to a standard guitar scale length. But that just might mean that the frets are slightly smaller and you can get your childish fingers round them a bit easier.
Yeah.
105 euros.
129 euros
can that
at the one for Finland placed. Yeah. And it's like, price-wise, it's also in the price range where, like, if your kid doesn't want to play in the end, like, you like, you'll be fine. Like, you didn't just invest hundreds and hundreds of euros or dollars into a guitar and then, like, nope, I want to play drums instead.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I just clicked the link and it's 130 euros for me in Germany at the moment, but that's very, very good value for money. Actually, recently on my own channel, I just did a review demo of the Harley Benton MS-60, which is... Oh, I've lost my other earphone. Both my earphones have fallen out. Okay, the left one's back in. Could you hear me?
Yes, good. I can.
Yeah, good. So I got the Harley Benton MS-60, and that's a Harley Benton take on the Fender offset genre of guitar. So it's part of a Mustang in it. It has different Jazzmaster and Jaguar features and stuff, and that's about 150 euros, and that's a similar kind of thing. And what that has is the single coil pickups and the glassy, brittle sounds that people associate with offset guitars. Now, what's cool about this Bullet Mustang for me is that it has humbuckers, so it's going to offer kids playing heavier stuff more of an option there. It's going to be more usable on the bridge humbucker, because on the MS-60, that bridge single coil is really, really glassy. And it cuts through very well, but it can take your head off too. So, you know, in this sense, I think the Bullet Mustangs are probably a very good choice indeed. And for that price.
Yeah, and a small detail with the humbuckers is also that they compress a bit more, which actually makes it feel like it's a bit easier to play, which is, again, a good thing. Yeah,
and think about these as a modding platform too. 130 bucks. Definitely. You can stick other pickups in them, upgrade the hardware, and you've got a perfect gigging machine.
Yep. Number 9, Ibanez Gio, G-I-O, GRGR. Why is it GRGR 120X? The best beginner electric guitar for metal fans. Yep, most likely yes. It looks to par of like what you would want to get as a metal fan. The only thing I'm slightly worried about is the fact that it has a floating bridge.
Yeah.
Which on a guitar in this price range could be kind of bad. So.
Yeah, and you could be in for a bit of a tuning nightmare if it goes out of tune and you need to sort things out. Yeah.
I would see if there's a hardtail version of this guitar, because first of all, like as a beginner, swapping strings on a floating bridge is a nightmare.
Yeah.
And again, as we mentioned, there might be some tuning issues. I'm pretty sure there's some sort of like hardtail version of this. There has to be.
There must be. There are so many different Ibanezes out there. But yeah, the other thing I would say is, you see the minus point on the list there. Appeal is limited to metalheads. This is more of a niche guitar in the same way that the Gretsch will attract certain players who want that kind of a vibe. If you want metal, then the Ibanez is going to be your choice, you know. So in a way that's great for metal people, and in a way that's possibly limiting for other people.
Yep.
And the neck is also probably tiny on it. It's probably the wizard neck, which is very, very small indeed, which would also make it suitable for kids. But again, if you like a bit of a neck chunk in the hand, you know, the other guitars, the classic vibe and the Pacifica are going to offer you more of what you want there.
Yep. Number 10 is the Epiphone DOT ES335 semi-hollow body.
Very cool.
Yeah. That's a cool guitar. That's a bigger guitar again. So yeah, large body might put off kids was one of them, like the minus point on this one.
Yeah. The 335 is the absolute classic. I mean, you could also go for the 339 if you wanted body shape and wanted a smaller one. Those are also awesome. But the 335 is another one that you just see it and it takes you to a specific place in terms of music and in terms of styles that you would expect. But on the other hand, as we're going to talk about in a bit with your Ibanez, Vlad, these semi-hollow and hollow body guitars are extremely versatile. They will do way more than most people think.
Yeah, definitely. And
what's the price on that one?
One of the cool things about these types of guitars is also that because it's semi-hollow, it's actually kind of fun to play without being plugged in at all. So that's kind of cool as well. Like you could sit on a couch and just jam with it, and it's like I have a semi-hollow guitar, and like that's kind of become my go-to couch guitar as well, because it's it's loud and it's just fun to play.
Yeah.
So that's one point as well. But yeah, this has to be the first list where we're like, yep, this makes sense, and because this is, as you mentioned, like a in a way sponsored thing. There's no like Harley Bentons or anything like that there, but similar options to these, there's like Harley Benton versions available as well. And those are also great beginning guitars. But as with these and the Harley Bentons, you probably might want to like include a trip to a guitar tech to the price, because most of these don't come that well set up, and there like might be some slight build issues here and there, like maybe sharp frets and stuff like that. Take care of those before you hand the guitar for your kid or for just any beginner, and you'll be fine. I'm guessing the PRS SE doesn't have those issues, but again, that's way more pricey as well.
Yeah, exactly. I would always have the expectation that a PRS would play perfectly from the store. I have played a couple in shops that were not perfect, but were still pretty good. The biggest issue I've seen with PRSs in stores is that the necks can be very sticky because they have gloss finishes on the back of the necks, and if you don't like that, that's that can also be a bit of an issue. But with every beginner's guitar, as with every other guitar really, budget in a setup when you start, and that will make it way better to play. And if it's a kid, getting them playing for the first time, if it's not set up well, they'll stop playing pretty much straight away, and then you've lost them. So get it set up and have a guitarist for life.
Exactly. But yeah, very solid list.
Yeah, good list.
Well done, Guitar World. Yeah.
Thumbs up for me.
Thumbs up. Yes. Our review system is very random, and it appears in some segments and in some it doesn't. But yeah, great list. I think the next thing we want to talk about, speaking of like guitars and stuff, there's a very positive thing I want to share with you guys. Something that happened by surprise. So let's dive into that first and then move on into the alternative universes of us choosing instruments or something else.
That is amazing. Yay. Wow.
In this random segment called Random Positive Thing, there's something really positive that happened today. I had to take my car to service this morning, and I was like, okay, I need to drive there, and then like me and my wife checked like a couple of buses that I need to take to get back home, because it's like far away enough that I don't want to walk from there. It will take me like an hour to get home, and I need to work, and like walking home for an hour isn't something I want to do in the morning, and especially because it's like raining outside right now. So I got to the place. The guy who's actually running the workshop said that he would be there later, so I can like throw the car key into like a mailbox or something like that, and he would then pick it up there, obviously, and stuff like that. But his dad was there this morning, and he was like, hey, where are you going? I can give you a ride. Like, you don't have to take the bus. And yeah, this repair shop's guy's dad drove me back home this morning, and I don't know, it was such a cool reminder of like the stuff you read on the news, because news seems to always focus on negative things. It's so awesome to be reminded that this is the real world. Most people are nice and helpful, and like these kinds of things can happen to anyone at any point. Like these positive things, I don't know, it just made my day, even though it was like fairly early morning. So yeah, indeed a very random positive thing that just happened out of nowhere.
That's really cool. And it's nice to hear that there are nice people out there. It's funny, but I guess this past year and a half, we haven't seen many other people. We've all been at home, we've all been on our own, and we've been following developments with COVID and Corona, what's going on in the world. And it's not been great. So just to get personal interactions like that, which are positive, it's wonderful. I'm looking forward to experiencing some of those once I can go out again, whenever that will be.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like it was really nice, and I hope this positivity will carry me through the day and more. I don't know what the bill from that repair will be, but maybe that will kill all of my positivity right away. But I let's see. Yeah, we do have like a rough estimate of what it will cost. But man, cars, those are not positive things. Like they just cost you money. I just had my windshield replaced. That cost money, and now I have to do this as well. Yay!
Yay, cars.
Cars. But moving on from cars, let's talk about alternative universes next. Alright, the premise for this segment is fairly simple. What would be your instrument, or like what would you have loved to be able to play if you wouldn't have picked up a guitar? And I actually kind of had very little time to think about this before I was like immediately like, okay, I know what's my choice. But I want to hear yours first. Like, was it like, did you have to like really think about it, or was it like immediately, hey, yeah, this is what I want to do?
There's two which immediately spring to mind for me. I'm not going to include singing because I can also kind of do that. So I have two little stories. The first would be that I wanted to play drums very much when I was a kid, but it was too loud for my parents to have one at home, which I understand. I didn't back in the day very much, but I understand it now. And I wanted to join the school drum club. And I remember it happened after school on a Tuesday evening, and I was walking up to the music rooms where it was, and there were people playing drums. And I opened the door, and I just had like some kind of feeling of fear. You know, I was a shy kid, and I turned away and didn't ever go back to the drum lessons. And ever since then, I haven't been a drummer. So that's kind of a regret in a way. I will change that at some point. But I always wanted to be able to play drums because I love groove. I have a good sense of rhythm. And so one day I will. But the other instrument would be piano, because that's just an all-round thing that you can pretty much apply to any style of music. You can write on it really well, and you can impress people with a piano very much indeed. You know, if you're a guitar player and people ask you to play something on guitar at a party or something, it's always the same thing. But with a piano, if you're a good pianist, you can do anything. I would love to be able to play the piano.
Yep. My choice is actually very similar, though, like, weirdly enough, I have a history of like studying classical piano for years, but damn it, if you sit me in front of piano, I can't play anything, because all of my piano studies were focused on playing, like looking at the sheet and playing all these classics like Bach and, you know, all the big composers. That's what I was playing. And we never really got into like improvising or like even being able to accompany myself like when singing or something like that. And that kind of killed my interest towards piano at the end, because I started to get into pop music and especially rock and metal music, and like keyboards and piano are very present in those, but because I had absolutely no way to like, I wasn't like good enough through my classical studies to be able to even start figuring out the accompanying thing, because I was so like locked in just reading that music sheet that, yeah, I wish I would be able to do that. And the second thing is, I guess I kind of can play bass, but being a bass player who has like actually devoted themselves to being a bass player is such a different thing from a guitar player like me picking up a bass and trying to do that. And I think I would have been invited to so many more bands if I was able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, being a real bass player is a different thing, a totally different thing from a guitar player picking it up and playing root notes, as many of us are guilty of.
Yeah, pretty much. I want to say that it's not too late for me yet, because like lately, for example, I've ditched using the pick when I track bass, and I've like really started to work on my like finger picking technique and stuff like that. And it's been great because it's actually getting better. And for example, the Wish I Liked Indie Music single I put out a couple of months ago, like I actually did a bass solo on that one. And so it's not, there
you go,
not too late. I'm actually waiting for a drum set as well, which should arrive maybe even today. So
wow,
maybe it's a drum as well.
It's never too late. It's never too late to learn an instrument. For anyone who's watching this and is, putting it off, just do it. And now is a great time to do it as well. I do wonder how things would have been different, if you'd persevered with the piano or learnt it in a different way, or if I'd actually been a braver 11-year-old kid and walked into that drum school instead of just turning around and walking away. Where would I be now? Who knows? But it's interesting to think. But, one day I will play drums, and one day you will play more bass. And everyone watching this, if you want to learn something else, then just do it.
Yeah,
it's never too late. Never.
Yeah, and the thing, like, I also want to remind everyone that you don't have to be like. The problem with YouTube and Instagram and stuff like that is like we watch the people who are absolutely best at what they do, but none of those like wibbly wobbly shredded things or anything like that they do actually translates into what people actually like, which is like great songs and well played, like basic things. Like any of us can actually learn those. I think you can be a really good guitar player who doesn't do a single solo, and you can still be incredibly valuable for your band. Same goes for the bass and drums and everything like that. Like as I've grown up, I've learned to appreciate the like when your fundamentals are very solid on an instrument. That's all you need, and then you can start having lots of fun playing with other people. And that's kind of what I'm aiming for nowadays. Like I'm okay at a lot of things. I'm not a master at any of those things, and I'm actually starting to enjoy that quite a lot. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't be watching the top players on Instagram and thinking I will never reach that, therefore I should never try. I think a lot of those guys are also not that happy. And again, coming back to the Misha thing, there is so much pressure on the people who are seen as the top experts on their instruments. And was it Mateus Azato?
Yeah.
Azato, yeah, he even stepped away from Instagram because of the pressure of being one of the best guitar players and having to constantly put out amazing new bits of music on the platform. You don't have to be like that at all. If you like me, if the limit to what you want to be able to play is just, rhythmic rock and roll songs, then you can do it. Yeah. And you should do it.
Yeah. That's the thing, like, we learn to distinguish, like, what's going on with, like, it's fun to watch all of these experts of their craft, but that's one side of the things. The other side of the things are the thousands and millions of musicians who are really good, and they actually, like, they can create the music and play the music they want to play without being able to do the wibbly wobbly. I'm getting a phone call as well that I'm going to put on mute right now. But yeah, I think what we want to do next is to answer some of your questions and comments. Questions and comments. Quicksilver, on the last week's CatPick Fridays episode, we talked about the HSS guitars and some wiring things about them, and we both realized that we don't know what pots you are supposed to have in HSS guitars. So Quicksilver enlightens us by mentioning that HSS guitars are not complicated to wire. You need a 5-way super switch, 500k volume pot, 250k tone pot 1, and a 500k tone pot 2. The trick is to wire the 470k resistor to the 500k volume pot so that when you are using the single coils, the pickups in quotes see a 250 volume pot. You also need to add a 0.022 UF. I'm forgetting what that means, the UF, but yes, that electricity thing capacitor to the second tone pot, which controls the humbucker. And also you need to have a 470k resistor to use the tone pot on the middle pickup. And yeah, basically a very helpful tip of like how do you wire the HSS guitar, because I'm realizing I've never wired an HSS guitar. I've wired a bunch of other guitars, but not these, so I know more now. Thank you.
Me too. Very useful comment. It's nice to get useful, practical bits of advice like that. So thank you, Quicksilver.
Absolutely. Really appreciate that. Yeah, the next question is from Hendrix5757 on the Nobels Audio 1 plugin video, which for some reason has skyrocketed on my channel recently. I think some Indian guitar gear channel shared it, and I'm getting like tons of views for that video all of a sudden. And I think Hendrix might be one of those guys watching. This is a very high quality, professionally produced and educational video through and through. As for the tunes you exhibited, the pedal with how were the drum tracks produced, whether from a pre-existing jam track, virtually programmed tune track, Get Good Drums, and any other software, or recorded live elsewhere. Thank you. Yeah, first of all, thank you very much. Appreciate the positive feedback. And I've been using EZdrummer 2 for, I want to say almost a decade, maybe not like exactly a decade, but 6-7 years at least. Bought it back in the day and it's been great. Just very, very solid tones, and especially since I learned to mix those a bit more. It's a very nice plugin to have and fairly affordable as well. 100 and something euros, I think. 120 maybe. Something like that.
I got an email from Nobles the other day to say it was on offer. So I think it's real cheap right now. I'm going to Google that. I think it was about 30 euros.
The
I was thinking
plugin.
about buying it.
Yeah, sorry.
I actually wanted to ask you about it.
Yeah, I'm talking about the EZdrummer plugin, that is. But yeah, Nobles is
sorry.
Yeah, Nobles is very affordable, and that's a killer plugin, by the way. Like, for the money, it's killer. And as I demonstrated in the video, you can use it for like rhythm guitar tones, like broken up clean tones, and you can get some fuzzy tones from it as well. And I also used it on the bass. So yeah, for the money.
Yeah, the plugin's on sale right now.
Yeah,
$37.
Sorry, how much?
$37.
Yeah.
Down from $77. So
yeah,
that's a good deal.
Yeah, I'm going to put a link in the description if you want to check out the video first and also get the plugin, because yeah, highly recommend it. And if someone wants to get like a budget friendly drum plugin that does a very solid job, EZdrummer 2, still good, still relevant. I like it a lot. And the third comment comes from the Mose Blues. Who cares about Chapman anymore? This comment was on the previous CatPick Fridays episode. And I guess in a way, even though this might be a slightly like, I don't know, nosy comment, I in a way agree. Rob Chapman has kind of disappeared from like this. It feels like he's kind of disappeared from this like big guitar YouTuber thing a bit, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly not. He was kind of the made man, the big guy, the big cheese, the head honcho, whatever you want to call him. He was that guy, and he's certainly not anymore.
Yeah,
he's in his Chapman niche. But I just pulled up his channel. He has 750,000 subscribers. That's a lot of people, and of course, not all of them still care. But if I just look at his recent videos, 10,000 views, 53,000 views, 65,000, 6,000, 11,000. So there are people who care.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, he's not the force that he once was. And I think, to me anyway, he seems to be happier in his more recent videos. So
yeah, maybe that's
good for him, if he is.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's good for him as well. Like, the amount of like eyes on him over the past 10 plus years and stuff like that, it has to be exhausting. Like, maybe doing your thing on a smaller scale is exactly what he needs as well. So
yeah. And don't forget, he's not just doing things on YouTube. He has companies and other creative endeavors that he's involved with. So, and kids.
Yep.
Which I'm led to believe might be quite a job.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, as long as he's happy, all good, I'd say.
Yeah.
So
I care.
Yeah.
A bit.
Yeah. I would say so as well. And we always have to like remind ourselves that if it wasn't for him, we don't know what kind of like YouTuber, musician, guitarist scene we would have. Like he was the guy who influenced so many others.
Yeah, it would be totally different, or it might not even exist in the way that it does. Who knows? So in that sense alone, I have massive amounts of respect for what he did for guitar players over the past decade or so.
Yeah, absolutely. Next, we want to talk about the guitar thing, which is the Ibanez Semi-hollow. Actually, you might know more about the model names. We'll dive into that next. There's a loud bird chirping either outside my window or your window, not sure where it is. And I'm not sure whether the podcast listeners will actually hear it, but I hear it very loudly. Yeah, might be
it's me.
Is it you?
There's a bird in this garden, yeah.
There's a bird in the garden.
It's me.
Oh, well, it's springtime or summertime at some places already, so it's loud. We'll just go with that. I like it a lot. But yeah, the next guitar after... What was the last week's guitar? It was the Tokai Strat. I briefly had a Ibanez. What is this? What's the model? I'm not sure.
I don't know exactly. There are so many. The one I had was an AS-73. And yours looks more expensive because of that. The color of the burst.
Yeah, maybe it's like in the next price tier because this is...
Yeah.
I remember paying like roughly 400 and something euros for this used. And it came with a case.
Okay.
Looks beautiful. Like, I think I got this guitar because I was just starting to build my Semi-hollow 335. And I kind of wanted to learn how this type of guitar sounds and how it works and stuff like that. Ended up getting this one to try it out and also just make sure that this is the type of guitar I want to build, or whether I should maybe build a solid body guitar instead. Great instrument, well finished. It definitely got me all of those rock and roll sounds and more. As you mentioned, these guitars are way more versatile than you would think.
Yeah, they are. Did yours have Ibanez pickups, or are they a branded pickup? It looks like there's something written down there.
Yeah, I gotta say I don't remember. It's been...
I can't read it, but anyway, they are super flexible and versatile instruments. Perhaps yours is exactly the same model as my one, but just
might be
a different finish. It looks great.
Might be. And I don't know, there's something like you forget that Ibanez makes those guitars, because when you say Ibanez, you think of like Steve Vai, Satriani, all of those pointy guitars that you could like protect yourself with when a bear attacks you or something like that, which is like very possible in Finland. Polar bear can be right around the corner, as Poo Ninja would know. True. So yeah, you kind of forget that they do, like they build these kind of guitars, but yeah, this semi-hollow stuff is great. And again, just looking at this picture, it looks beautiful. Yeah,
why did you sell that guitar? I ask you that every single time, but why did you sell that guitar?
I will give a different answer than I don't know. I'm pretty sure, like, I think my telly was finished at this time. It was just about to be finished. So this was like a transitional guitar. And I had to sell this to get more parts for my own semi-hollow. Because building a telly was fairly affordable. It's like more affordable hardware and stuff like that. But then when it came to the semi-hollow one, just the wood parts and everything were already more expensive. And I think I was attending like 2 guitar building courses at the same time as well. So I was doing like a weekly course and then a monthly weekend course as well. And all of that cost money. And looking at the floor, this was from a student apartment, so I was still a student at the time. So money was tight. Simple as that, really.
But that guitar, it looks fantastic. And I think I've realized what it is that makes it look very valuable. Firstly, it's the finish.
Yeah.
It's a deep, rich burst. I would love to know what the name is, but it's the binding, the binding inside the F-holes, the binding up on the headstock. It looks fantastic. And what also looks great, and what I think might not be original to the guitar, is the knobs themselves, the volume and tone knobs.
Oh, that's true.
Because they look more like what you'd see on a Gibson 335 or 339, and the ones on my Ibanez hollow body guitar are different. They don't look like that, and they don't look as classy as these knobs. So maybe that's something I should change about mine. But this one just looks fantastic. I love it. I'm trying to find online now what it could be.
True. Yeah, I remember that this guitar was very easy to sell. Just this one picture would probably have sold it for a bunch of people right away.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
And I mean, like, finish-wise, playability-wise, all of that was good. There's also, like, my Telly and then this guitar and a bunch of others that followed were, like, me transitioning from, like, very heavy metal or, like, metal-oriented guitars into more classic designs. So maybe I wasn't just quite ready for this guitar yet as well, so...
It's possible, yeah.
Yeah.
That could be it, exactly. I don't know what model it is. I don't think it's made anymore, but it looks really, really nice.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have sold it. Again, as I tell you every week.
Yes, that's the and we still have like my whole amp history to dive into. There's a bunch of these coming up over the next weeks as well. Because that's how it was for me at the time. Don't ask me why. Or you can ask me why, but you might get the same answer every time. Unfortunately.
Now some people just wheel and deal, and some people just buy things and don't sell. That's how it is.
Yep, definitely. All right. We'll dive into the weekend watch next and wrap up the show for today. Moving on there now.
Watch it. Video.
It's not like you have anything else to do. This week's Weekend Watch is a live gig or like played live, even though it's very difficult to distinguish from that kind of music whether it's live or not. But we're talking about like the band Pnedulum, which are these drum and bass, I don't know how to call their music, drum and bass, something electronica type of music. They're playing at this cool Spitbank 4th, which is somewhere. Maybe I should have done the research and figured out where that actually is. But like a 4th in the middle of a lake or an ocean or something like that. Looks really cool. And as I mentioned, a friend of ours, Perry, plays guitar in that band, and it's kind of cool to try to spot where like what kind of guitar parts he does, because he uses a bunch of effects and kind of does all these cool things with his guitar in that show. So I just found it really interesting. As we mentioned last week, we probably need to get him on the show and just like pick his brain on like how does he design his sounds for that type of music, because to me it's a complete mystery coming from like a traditional rock and metal background.
Yeah, Perry would be an amazing guest. So, it was great to hang out with him for a week and just kind of learn a bit about how you approach making guitar sounds in a band which is predominantly electronic and drum and bass, even though Pnedulum is a live band, and how to do it so successfully, because they are huge. They headline pretty much every festival they're a part of. They play massive shows all around the world, and people love them. And I think not that many people realize that there is an amazing guitar player in that band, So yeah, Perry would be a great guest.
And it's not like he could do all the like traditional guitar stuff as well. That's the cool thing about him. There's a jam, like this kind of solo collaboration thing from that event where we hung out at, and his solo definitely stands out from everyone else. Just the way he approached it which was really cool, like this double-tracked chord type of thing Really, really cool stuff. I'm going to put a link in the description for that as well, if you want to check
again,
it out.
Perry is not like one of those traditional shredders in a way. I mean, he can play. He can play everything. He's a professional guitar player, toured with Natalie Imbruglia and many other huge bands from the 90s up to now. But everything I've seen him play up close and personal and on your track and on the Hughes & Kettner Black Spirit 200 track was so melodically driven and written with the backing track and with the idea of the song evolution in mind. He's a very, very interesting person as a musician and an artist, and as a person as well. So let's get him on the show and find out what makes him tick.
Yes, definitely. But something really different and interesting to check out. Just try to spot like what happens with the guitar and like those different sections of the songs. I think it was really interesting to see, and we need to get him as a guest on a show soon. But that wraps up the CatPick Fridays episode number 17. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Share this with your friends who you might think would love this as well. And by the way, thank you for your response for the previous episode, because it has absolutely skyrocketed compared to any other episode we've done. There's like a very nice momentum going on with the CatPick Fridays stuff. So thank you for that. And as always, links below to everything we've talked about here in the description. And have a great weekend. Or if you're watching this on Monday, have a great weekend as well. Something like that. And what is now become our signature greeting?
Bye, podcast.
Bye, podcast.